The night was heavy in Umuoka, and the wind carried whispers no man could understand. A pale moon hung in the sky, casting silver light over the village paths. Obi ran barefoot through the dust, clutching a crying baby to his chest. His breath tore from his lungs, his eyes wild as blue ghost lights flitted between the trees behind him. He stumbled, nearly falling, but tightened his hold on the child. Somewhere in the forest, drums echoed, slow, deep, and ancient. He stopped, turned to face the shadows, and shouted into the darkness, "Awele, I will find you, no matter how long it takes." The wind swallowed his voice, and the night fell silent except for the baby's sobs. Had not always been this way. Years before, Obi had been the happiest man in Umuoka. He was a palm wine tapper, humble but content, until the morning he met her. Awele appeared by the river, her beauty unlike anything mortal eyes should behold. The water curled around her ankles as if to worship her, and when she smiled, it was as though the harmattan haze melted from the air. She said little about her past, only that she had come from far beyond the next villages. The old women whispered in their courtyards that she was an Imuo, child of the spirits, but Obi's heart was deaf to warnings. He loved her and she loved him, or so it seemed. For a while they lived in joy. But strange signs began to creep into their home. At night, Awele would rise in her sleep and walk barefoot into the forest, returning before dawn with dew glistening on her hair. Sometimes when she stepped outside, river water followed her footsteps back to their hut. The goats would stop grazing when she passed, their heads bowed low as though before a queen. Then came the night of the New Yam festival. The village danced, fires burned bright, and drums thundered under the stars. Awele danced with the women, her movements so graceful that even the drummer seemed to follow her lead. But as the night deepened, something changed. Her eyes grew distant, her steps slower, until they stopped altogether. The rhythm of the festival faded beneath another drumbeat, low, deep, and coming from the forest. Awele turned to Obi, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "They have come for me," she whispered. Before he could reach her, a thick mist wrapped around her body. The crowd gasped as she was lifted from the ground, her form fading into the night until she was gone. In his arms, Obi found only their newborn daughter, Kamsi, wailing. The years that followed were lonely. Obi raised Kamsi alone, tending to her as best as he could, but the shadow of Awele's absence clung to him like a curse. Villagers pitied him, but none would come too close. They said his wife had been taken as a bride by the spirits, and a man who had loved such a woman could not escape their reach. Still, he told Kamsi stories of her mother, of her kindness, her beauty, and the way she once laughed like rain on dry earth. But guilt gnawed at him. He had never asked enough questions, never understood the truth. One stormy night, lightning split the sky, and Obi saw a figure at the edge of the trees. Awele stood there, unchanged by the years, her hair glistening in the rain. His heart leapt, but before he could take a step, she dissolved into mist, leaving only the sound of rushing water in his ears. That night, Obi swore he would bring her back, even if it meant following her into the spirit world itself. He sought out Dibia Nwokiaka, the oldest seer in the land. The old man listened and shook his head. "If you want her back," he said slowly, "you must enter the forest of eternal echoes. But no man who goes there returns whole." When Obi prepared to leave, Kamsi, now 10 years old and stubborn as her mother, refused to be left behind. The Dibia, seeing her courage, gave them 3 charms: a calabash that would never empty of water, a white feather that glowed in the dark, and a small drum that must only be beaten once. "The forest will test you," the old man warned. "Guard your hearts." At dawn, father and daughter stepped into the forest. The air was thick and sweet, as though alive. The deeper they walked, the stranger the world became. Rivers flowed upward into the sky. Trees shifted when they weren't looking. Voices whispered their names from the shadows. A masquerade with no feet blocked their path, demanding a story in exchange for passage. Later, a tree with eyes offered them directions, but only if they left behind something they loved. Obi gave his father's hunting knife. Days passed before they reached the shrine of the bound bride. In the dim light, Awele sat on a stone, chained by vines that pulsed like living veins. She looked up, her eyes filled with pain. "I was never truly free," she said. "I was born to the spirit of the river, promised to the forest king before I ever met you. Our love broke the pact. They took me back to keep the balance." The ground shook. From the shadows emerged the forest king, towering, his antlers scraping the air, his voice deep as thunder. "Leave her, and you and the child may live. Stay, and be bound here for eternity." Obi's hands trembled. Kamsi stepped forward, holding the small drum. The Dibya's warning echoed in Obi's mind. It must only be beaten once. Without waiting, Kamsi struck it. The sound was like 1,000 heartbeats at once. Blue fire tore through the vines, and Awele collapsed into Obi's arms. The forest king roared and lunged, but the glowing feather burst into light so bright it blinded him. The forest shook as the spirits screamed and scattered into the wind. The trees seemed to bow low, clearing a path for them. Obi carried Awele, Kamsi running at his side, until they broke into the clearing. Morning sunlight poured over them. The air smelled of fresh rain and new beginnings. Awele wept as she touched Kamsi's face for the first time in years. Obi wrapped his arms around them both, holding them as if the world could end in that moment and he would not care. In Umuaka, the villagers whispered of their return for generations. They said the forest had yielded what it had taken, and that love had proven stronger than the oldest curse. As for Obi, Awele, and Kamsi, they lived their days together, never again letting the shadow of the forest fall upon their hearts. And every Harmattan morning when the river mist rose, they would sit together by the water's edge, hand in hand, knowing that no spirit, no curse, no darkness could part them again.